A grieving mafia boss was about to lose his newborn son when a broken woman with nothing left quietly said, "Give him to me." Neither of them knew that one act of compassion would change 3 lives forever. This is a powerful story about love, redemption, family, and the unexpected miracles God places in our path. This is episode 1 of Mafia's redemption. Rain lashed against the windows of a massive Gothic mansion. Inside, the fortress of marble and shadow felt cold and empty. Dante Rosetti, a man in his late 30s, paced frantically in a darkly lit nursery. His suit was impeccable, but his tie hung loose, his hair was disheveled, and his eyes were red-rimmed with exhaustion and despair. In a beautiful mahogany crib, a tiny baby named Matteo whimpered weakly. He was thin and pale, barely clinging to life. A nervous doctor and a nurse stood by, helpless. Dante slammed his fist against the wall, his voice a raw growl. He demanded they fix his son. He insisted the baby had everything: a name, a home, an empire. But the doctor explained that Matteo was physically healthy, yet refusing all formula. The baby was grieving. He knew his mother was gone and needed a mother's touch. Nothing else would work. Meanwhile, in a shabby apartment across the city, Elena sat on the floor of an empty room surrounded by moving boxes. She wore a simple dress and stared blankly at photographs of her husband Aldo and a baby bump. Her face was hollow, stained with dried tears. She held a tiny baby blanket to her chest, feeling nothing but crushing emptiness. A police report echoed in her mind. A single car accident. Her husband and unborn child were gone. Loud knocking at her door pulled her from her stupor, but she ignored it until it became insistent and unrelenting. Back at the mansion, Dante made threatening phone calls, demanding someone find a woman, a wet nurse, anyone who could help the son. He hung up in frustration and walked to the crib. The baby's weak whimper was barely audible. For the first time, Dante's mask of control shattered. He sank to his knees beside the crib, his head bowed. He prayed to the universe, to his dead wife, to anyone who might be listening. He had never asked for anything in his life, only taken what he wanted. But now he begged. He pleaded for a sign. He pleaded not to lose his son. Hours later, 2 brutal men burst into Elena's apartment. She didn't flinch. She told them she had nothing left. But they weren't there to take anything. They offered her a job, a life-saving mission. She laughed hollowly, saying she had just buried her husband and child. But they insisted she come with them, and she followed in a daze, too broken to resist. Elena was brought to the mansion. Dante met her in the grand foyer. He looked like a caged lion, pacing restlessly. When he saw her lost and broken state, he scoffed. He said she looked more dead than his son, and ordered her out. But Elena looked at him and whispered that she had lost her baby too. Her son had been born too early and didn't make it. The room fell silent. Dante stopped pacing. He saw the depth of her pain, a mirror of his own. His voice softened, almost human. He told her he knew what that felt like. He explained that his son in the crib was fighting but losing. The baby wouldn't take any milk. He was giving up. Dante gently took Elena's arm and led her to the nursery. His grip was desperate, not forceful. The baby let out another weak cry. The sound pierced through Elena's grief-stricken haze. She looked at the tiny, helpless infant, then at her own empty arms. Dante's voice cracked as he begged her. He said his son needed a mother. He needed her. Could she nurse him? Could she nurse him just once?
Elena hesitated.
She was shattered, but something stirred deep inside her. She walked slowly to the crib and looked at the struggling baby. Her own child's face flashed in her mind. Without a word, she gently picked up Matteo. She cradled him close, and a single hot tear rolled down her cheek, landing on his forehead. In that moment, a beautiful silence fell over the room. The thunder outside seemed to pause. Almost immediately, the baby rooted, turning his head toward Elena. He let out a small, desperate whimper. Then he latched on and began to nurse. The tension dissolved. Dante exhaled a long, shuddering breath he didn't know he was holding. He covered his mouth, his eyes wide with shock and awe. The doctor and nurse exchanged glances of disbelief. Dante whispered a broken prayer of gratitude. Elena was crying silently, but there was a flicker of life in her eyes for the first time since the accident. She looked down at the baby, now peacefully drinking his fill. She was healing him, but in the process, she was unknowingly healing herself. A soft lullaby played from a music box in the room. Dante stood in the doorway. He was no longer the fearsome Mafia boss. He was just a relieved father watching the woman who had saved his son. His eyes held a complex blend of hope, gratitude, and a terrifying new vulnerability. He thought he was saving his son. He didn't realize his son was about to save him. What happens when Dante offers Elena a deal she cannot refuse? Will she stay and become part of this dangerous world, or will she walk away from the only light she has found since losing everything? The enemy within Dante's organization is already watching, and not everyone is happy about this new arrival. If you want to see how this story unfolds, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss episode 2 of Mafia's redemption. The journey is just beginning, and trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next.